Thank you for joining us. This is the Allon Exchange with financial advisors Jay and Brittany Hagee. They are the co-founders of Allon Planning Partners, and I'm Spike Spangle. On today's program, I will go ahead and tee it up for you both.
Sure, let's do it.
Retiring with clarity.
Okay.
You know why? Because there's a lot of cloud. There's a lot of mystery sometimes behind the numbers and how much we need to save. So hopefully on today's program, we're going to help you retire with more clarity.
Yeah,
Brittany, clarity. It's a gift, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think about, aside from finances, when I walk into a room and it's cluttered and chaotic and maybe the bed's unmade or there's blankets or clothes everywhere, this is where we differ as a couple.
There can
right?
be such a thing as organized chaos, okay?
He
there
loves the organized chaos. I like more of the organized. And so, but when I walk into a room and I see that.
Super organized.
Yeah, it impacts me.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's
but
good.
it impacts me in a specific way, right? To where it kind of sends me into almost
Sure.
a tailspin, or like where I can't really think straight, or sometimes I can't rest until those certain things are done. It's the same thing in our finances, whether we acknowledge it or not. It impacts us mentally. We can only hold so many open tabs, right, in our minds at once. And so if you can consolidate some of the tabs, simplify the whole financial picture, it's just going to be better.
Well, and because most fear, especially in retirement, but just fear in general, usually comes from uncertainty and doubt and, the unknown.
Yeah.
And so if we can bring clarity around your retirement situation, it gives you more confidence. So it's the gift of confidence that we're giving. So you don't have to fear the unknown and how am I going to make it and am I going to run out of money and all these things am I going to pay too much in taxes? All these things that could drive us a little batty and create fear and anxiety in us. We can bring clarity around that, which brings confidence to us.
So there's so many different things about retirement planning, everything from Social Security and taxes and estate planning and healthcare selections. I want to be clear right now. Let's stay in one lane. Let's stay in the investments.
Yeah.
Let's stay in how we create income. The clarity, though, I really appreciate this. I was looking at my at-home desk. It's a disaster. You would hate it. You would walk in and you would walk out. You're like, nope, can't do it.
Okay.
But I know where everything is.
Organized chaos.
But
There you
I
go.
have read about
Sure.
this, the clutter of it, and it really does. It
Mm-hmm.
tires my own brain out throughout the day having all of this stuff around. So by having multiple retirement accounts, especially between spouses,
Right.
is that clutter?
Well, it's exactly the same with our financial picture. So sometimes we'll come in and we'll have a first meeting with a family or a couple or an individual, and they'll bring all their statements in, and they'll lay 9 or 10 statements out on the desk, and we're asking questions about things like, I don't really know, I'm not sure, I think this is this. And that's understandable because there's so many different pieces that you're trying to put together. We met with a family once who had $100,000 totaled, but it was broken up into like 17 different accounts, right? So that's just a lot of clutter. That doesn't really help their situation. So part of what we do is really help to consolidate those. Let me clarify what that means. That does not mean putting all our eggs in one basket. That does not
that's
mean
different.
taking all of the accounts and putting them into one investment strategy. No, that's not what that means. But it does mean we consolidate it and make the actual allocation model simpler and more easy to track along the way as well.
Well, there's a few reasons why the disorganization of your IRAs and 401ks and 403bs hurt you. One of those is you may forget that you have certain accounts.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
that
actually
happens.
had clients come across that they had a full old 401k that they'd forgotten about, that they transferred jobs 25 years ago and forgot that they actually didn't move their 401k with them, right? If you have 3 or 4 of these, you can forget about one and that's going to hurt you. But then also, how are they working together? Because if you've got an IRA, a Roth, a 401k, a 403b, Brittany's got a TSP, we're working as a family, but are they allocated to where they're working together in unity with each other? Do we have clarity on that? Or is it just, hey, I've got mine positioned the way I feel good about, and Brittany has hers positioned the way she feels good about in her investment assets, and there's no real clarity of purpose-driven goal together to understand how is everything working in unison. And sometimes that can cost you big on returns as well.
Do you look at, again, trying to clarify the clutter of everything, accounts that are for your growth, accounts that are for your income, accounts maybe that even might continue to be debts, like, when we're going to pay off the mortgage or even automobiles? You know, nobody likes the monthly, even weekly of sitting down and putting together a budget, but you do need to clarify where all of this stuff is. Would you say fewer accounts are better than more?
Well, it certainly simplifies things, right? I say that it needs to be few enough to still have the proper diversification,
There you
right?
go.
Because you don't want to simplify it just for simplification's sake, just down to one account, and then you don't have the diversification that you actually need to sustain your plan. So that's what it really comes down to, is ensuring that you have proper
That's good.
allocation for each of those.
And on the other hand, some folks believe that just because you have a lot of accounts, that means you have diversification. And that's not true. I've worked with clients who've brought in 10 different statements, and all 10 are positioned basically the same way. And so they could have one account working the same, in the same direction. And so you want to, that's where our spending plan too comes into play, is because we want to put all of your list of debts, like you said, your mortgage, maybe your car payments if you have that, and then also your income. How much are we each making, your investment accounts, and really put a holistic approach picture together so that we have a complete spending plan that we can look at to say, how do we create income based on the investments that we have for the expenses that we need to cover.
So let's simplify the conversation even further, though. But if you're in the position where you do feel like things are cluttered, a first step for you would just to be assess where you are.
Yeah.
Get copies of those financial statements. See where you are with your spending and your savings. Look at your different investment accounts and what is actually in those, where those dollars actually are held, and consolidate all of that. Get that information in front of you. Because you can't really do anything with your financial situation until you know where you're beginning, right? You can't go on a trip unless you know your starting point. So you've got to really assess where you are before you can craft a strategy or a plan to get where you want to be. So really simplified, that's the first step. And then assuring that you're not just guessing what you're spending. And back to your comment about you don't know, nobody likes a budget or spending plan. Just do the basics of it, right? Just be able to assess within this small category or even overall, what am I spending and where are those dollars actually going? And not guesstimating what that will look like in retirement is a big thing. Ensuring that you actually know, what are my expenses? What are my spending patterns? And how that will actually carry over into retirement.
And then what exactly are we going to do with that? We're going to discuss that right after this break. But if you call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen, we can actually start to put all of these numbers together for you so you don't have to guesstimate your retirement spending. Call the phone number so you can get started on your own written financial plan right now with the team here of Allon Planning Partners and Jay and Brittany Hagee. We'll be right back after this message.
In the mountains of Guatemala, women are fighting for a better future for themselves, for their children, and for their communities. At dareformore.org, every purchase has a purpose. From handcrafted jewelry, wallets, and vibrant bags to premium coffee, every item tells a story and changes a life. Your support provides education, safe shelter, and business opportunities for women escaping poverty and violence. Together, we're helping them rewrite their story from survival to success. Shop with purpose. Change a life. Visit dareformore.org today and be part of a movement that empowers women and gives hope to the next generation.
We know you have money questions. Questions about your investments, about taxes, our economy, Social Security, mutual funds, ETFs, and so much more.
So we want to provide you with answers. We've created a YouTube channel, a weekly podcast, educational videos, and many resources designed just for you. At Allon Planning Partners, it's our mission to invest in you, and this is part of how we do that.
Click the link below to watch and subscribe today.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with financial advisors Jay and Brittany Hagee. We're trying to help you with retirement clarity today. We started out with that having all of those different accounts that can create a lot of confusion and which ones are growing and what are the fees are. Let's say that we've pulled that all together. what's our next step? Once we organize our
Yeah,
accounts?
there's a reason why we want to organize all of these documents together, right? It's not just to say, here's how much money I have amassed in all these accounts. Because the outcome we're looking for is to create an income plan that lasts us throughout our retirement. And so with all of this documentation of here's all of my investment accounts, here's my expenses, here's my debts, here's how much it costs me to live every month. That is where you start, but we're creating an income plan around that. So we have to gather now, what are the potential income sources that you have? One would be those retirement accounts, right? But then another, your Social Security timing. When should we take Social Security? What's that look like? If you're married, you really need to take a look at when you should take Social Security, either individually and together. That is a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to income planning. Then maybe you have pensions still. Not a lot of people have pensions these days. I had a gentleman in my office last week that had 3 pensions still. So some people still have pensions, and that's great if you do. That's going to be a piece of the income puzzle for you. Maybe you have rental income and rental properties that are going to create an income stream for you. So we need to identify every income source that you have as well at your disposal once we have your existing expense number. So once we get your expense number, then we look at all of your income sources, and then from there we're going to say, what's our gap? Meaning, this is what it costs me every month. Maybe it costs me $7,000 to live every month. All of my income sources gathered together, I'll get about $5,000 a month. There's a $2,000 a month gap there. That's how we create income based around your investment accounts that we talked about to begin with, to create a plan to know we can help you not run out of money if we have a strong enough income plan.
There are income gaps. There's also income potholes. And
yeah.
there are sometimes income
Huge ones.
Grand Canyons, income pits.
There
What
are.
are some of the income pits in retirement?
Well,
Long-term care, taxes, pick a favorite.
The biggest one, I think, there's 2 of them, really, taxes and long-term care, taxes and healthcare. Healthcare is a Grand Canyon, if you were to
Yeah.
speak to that, is because those are the ones where you could have everything planned out where I know exactly what it's going to take me to live. And even I could add inflation in there too as a pothole, right? Because we have to solve the equation to add inflation in our income. But healthcare, if you do not plan for healthcare well, it can literally wipe out years of planning off of your income plan. And so we have to make sure we're not just covering the gaps that are our monthly expenses, to your point. We're covering the canyons that are healthcare and taxes and inflation and things that will eat away our income if we allow them to.
Which that's part of this comprehensive plan that we actually formulate. I mean, we are investment advisors, but we don't just talk about investments. We don't just educate and coach folks on what stock to pick or what ETF to hold. That's a part of it. That is the cornerstone. But all of this that Jay just listed, the tax planning, the income planning, the healthcare strategy, the estate planning, man, all of those are so integral in the bigger picture of this. And because what you do in building income is going to impact your tax strategy, and whether or not you tax plan will impact how long your income and your investments will actually last.
That's
so
right.
they're really all interconnected. And if you really are just kind of beginning and thinking through all of this, and I don't know kind of where to begin or what even are the right questions to ask, those are the kind of folks we sit down with every day to really help you along the way, even know what kind of questions to ask. We've created a resource just for you. It's called Allon Quiz. You can visit allonquiz.com. You could choose also to click the QR code below, but this will just walk you through a really brief questionnaire all through these 5 different segments that I just mentioned: the investment management, income planning, tax planning, healthcare, and estate planning, to see kind of where you are along the journey. If you are well prepared for the stages that are ahead, if you are missing a few things, if you've got a few potholes, just like you mentioned, Spike, it's going to illuminate those things to at least give you a starting point, because that's what we're talking about here. Like, where do I begin? Where is my starting line? You got to begin with assessing where you are. Before you can even build this income strategy we're talking about, you got to assess where you are. So that's a great place to begin.
Potholes are things that you run into and they flatten your tire, as you know from a few weeks ago.
It happened to me
but I got
just
my-
last
that big.
week.
Yeah, I got my phone out here. Folks, this QR code right down here, down at the bottom of the screen, I'm sure you've got your phone out as well. You're probably scrolling. You can look up the Allon Exchange. What's the website, in fact? What's the website for your-
Allonplanning.com.
allonplanning.com to learn more about the team. But if you want to, open up your phone to the camera function, point it at this QR code, and then click on it. It'll take you over to the Allon quiz. It's a free tool. It's a fun conversation starter. Maybe you're wondering, what are all the steps of planning that you need to be considering? Maybe you want to start the conversation with your spouse or a buddy who's sitting next to you. Go to the allonquiz.com. It'll give you just some information, some things to think about, totally free. Potholes are things that you run into that you don't see. What are some of the biggest mistakes that people make on their own going into retirement? Underfunding, taking too much risk, taking too little risk. What are big mistakes?
I think you can really sum it up in making assumptions. I think a lot of assumptions are made about retirement. You know, I assume that expenses will be less in retirement. I
That's a big one.
assume that I'll be able to continue working if I need to, or I assume that I'll just be able to take care of taxes when I get there. I don't need to tax plan. I'll just deal with it when I get there. You know, all of those types of assumptions, instead of planning, is what we find gets folks into precarious situations because there wasn't a proactive approach taken. We talk about that a lot, about a proactive versus reactive approach when it comes to planning. And the proactive approach is always going to set you up better, right? The actual planning versus the reactive, like in the moment, ooh, I've got this expense. How do I pay for it? Let's just pick a bucket, right, and just pull it out. Well, that may cause some unnecessary tax consequences if you take that approach. So pre-planning those types of things will really help. So I think assumptions are a big one.
And one of the biggest canyons here is the assumption that I can stay invested the way that I've always been invested when I'm in retirement, or I can pull everything to a safe investment now that I'm in retirement. And so I think there are ditches on both sides of the road here, but your accumulation mode, which you've probably spent 30, 40 years growing these funds in these IRAs and 401ks that we've talked about, and to have the pitfall of saying, I can continue in the same mode or take the same risk that I've always taken is an assumption that will lead you to have a flat tire, like Spike said. And also, I get folks that are like, oh, now I'm retired, I've got to take all risk off the table. So they say, let's pull everything to fixed income or cash, not realizing that inflation being 4 to 6% a year, or whatever it may be the year that we're speaking to you in this episode, but it will eat your lunch. It will eat your lunch money. And so it will erode your purchasing power. So you have to have allocation strategies that are appropriate for where you're at now. And that's why this 5-year, really 10-year window, 5 years before you retire and 5 years after you retire, become a very critical place for how you are positioned in the market. And so we help put a plan together so that you know and have clarity. That's what we're trying to give you, confidence that I'm not going to run out of money, that I'm positioned correctly and appropriately for how I need to create income out of these buckets. And that's something that I see a lot of people do, is take assumptions on how I should be positioned, whether it's all in the market and everything's 100% risk, or 0% risk and out of the market, that will really cause you to hit potholes.
Well, and
in
another
retirement.
assumption kind of in all of that is that assuming cash is safe, all my money's in cash, like you said, but the even a step
risk there.
further is that that's the safe solution. Well, we just talked through that, right? That can't be safe because losing purchasing power on the dollar. We just helped a client a few months ago process this because they brought us some accounts that they had held in cash for so long. Over the last year, they had lost $50,000 just in holding their funds in cash for such a long period of time. So able to kind of show them there is still risk associated with this. It's just not market risk. It's not that type of risk, but there is a risk, and kind of acknowledging that and diffusing those assumptions.
It's just as real of a risk, losing out on your own purchasing power. There's different versions of safety, but not having enough growth to be able to sustain against things like taxes and inflation, you're actually losing your purchasing power. What Jay and Brittany are trying to help you with today is retiring with your own clarity. So if you're wondering, have you saved enough? When can I retire? Exactly when do I turn on Social Security? How much am I going to pay in taxes in retirement? When do I start the estate plan? If these things are keeping you or your partner up at night, call the phone number. Call it right now. Let's get you started on your own plan for retirement. There's no cost, no obligation. Call that phone number, or you can scan the QR code as well. Open up your phone, click on the camera, and then click on the website when it pops up there. You can schedule your own time right now. More with Jay and Brittany right after this.
You have to have a plan. From what I found, we call it the Sleep Well at Night plan, the SWAN plan.
Yeah, a comprehensive plan is extremely important for individuals, families, couples, anyone who is working with their finances. You've got to have more than just an investment.
If we have a plan and know that we can follow step by step a plan that's going to get us to our ultimate goal, we can have trust in that plan to anchor us in those tumultuous times.
And so we're able to really show them, hey, there's all these other things that really come into play.
So it's real important for us to really create those unique plans for people. And it's not just like, well, my neighbor's doing this, so I'm okay.
You got to think about your taxes. You got to think about your health care. You got to think about a number of things that really impact the whole of your financial situation, especially for couples. And we talk about this a lot, that at minimum, both spouses should at least be informed.
Ultimately, we want everyone to not just, be wandering through life and hope that they make it to the goals that they have. We want to put a written step-by-step plan together so that you actually know how to get to those financial goals. Because if you don't have a plan in place to get you through some of those times and you don't have financial security, that's something else that is added to that stress level that can push you overboard.
Welcome back. You are with financial advisors Jay and Brittany Hagee of Allon Planning Partners. This is the Allon Exchange, and today we are trying to help you with retirement clarity. In fact, I've got a free tool for you right now, sitting right in front of me here, their book, The Allon Approach. When you call and you make an appointment to come in, we'll give you a complimentary copy of the book. Then you can take it home, you can earmark it, you can underline things, and then come back in. You can have another appointment, and we'll talk about what kinds of things will help you with your clarity. Inside the Allon Approach book, do we talk about things like
you're going to get clarity of
how
all
do you build
things.
Income, and
we're going to
all
talk
of it?
about income planning and how you generate income out of the retirement buckets that you have set up right now. Social Security, how does that best work for you or you and your partner? You're going to look at things like pensions and how they affect your income needed, but how to allocate your funds, like I talked about in the last segment. We're going to go over taxes, tax strategies, tax planning, to make sure that you are taking advantage of the tax strategies available to you so you don't pay Uncle Sam more than your fair share. We're going to talk about healthcare planning and how we can save you from falling in that Grand Canyon that would cost you a lot of money through retirement. So there's going to be a lot of strategies and clarity that we bring in this book. And this whole show today, we're talking about bringing you clarity. It's so that you have confidence walking into this new season of retirement so that you don't have to wonder, what if, or oh no, do I have it all together? But we can bring clarity around having a comprehensive plan, and that's what the Allon Approach talks about.
A clear question I know that you must receive from people is, how do you know if my money is going to last? Well, for that kind of clarity, you have to know how long they're going to live.
Yes.
How do you
Genie.
answer the question that really does keep a lot of retirees up? Am I going to run out of money?
Well, longevity is a variable that we cannot predict, right? That's something that we just have to kind of guesstimate based on our family history and
Health history.
Medical issues that we do or do not have. But one way to really attack this is by creating multiple income streams. What we don't want is to have folks who have just a single income stream, all of their income coming from one source, like Social Security or a pension or, a distribution from an IRA, but building multiple streams. And that just brings strength to the plan, not only because it's coming from multiple sources and say something happens to Social Security, which is a very real possibility moving forward, that system is going to change and shift. And maybe
some way.
down the road, those benefits could be reduced. You don't want to be solely dependent on that, right? You want to utilize the other assets that you have to build additional income streams. It also helps when we're talking taxes, because we want to be able to pull our income in retirement, not all from taxable sources, but from some tax-free sources as well, things like Roth IRAs. And so if you're creating these multiple income streams, you're pulling from different accounts, not just to have dependable sources, more than just a singular source, right? But also there's tax strategy in that. Ensuring that you have some tax-free dollars that minimizes your tax bill.
To give folks some clarity on this, because again, you know what, I'm just going to throw out all the free tools right now. We have a free tool that Jay and Brittany have put together to give you some clarity of how much you're going to pay in taxes on all of your tax-deferred accounts. There's a very simple calculator that they have put together for you. It's called exchangemytaxbill.com, because they are the Allon Exchange, or this is the show, the Allon Exchange. You go to exchangemytaxbill.com, or you can scan this QR code. It's going to ask you a few very simple prompts. How much do you think you have saved in tax-deferred accounts? Could be a few $100,000. You could put in $1 million. And then what is your tax bracket, right? 22, 24%. You'll know from your tax returns. Then it's going to send you a report immediately to show you how much you owe in taxes right now. And what Brittany was talking about is, how do we get some of your savings for retirement into more of the tax-free bucket? Legally, right? So we might have to pay some of those taxes, but aren't we in a lower tax rate environment?
We are in the third lowest tax brackets of the history of the United States. And so those have just been extended permanently, I use those quotations on purpose, until the next Congress decides we're going to change those tax brackets. And so take advantage of the low tax brackets that we have today. You want to make sure that you're doing Roth conversions properly, right? And that may not be for everyone, but if you have that strategy and you know we're in the low tax brackets we are today, why not take advantage of paying lower tax dollars so that later on down the road the IRS doesn't raise those prices and Congress doesn't raise the taxes so that you're having to pay more in retirement. We want to save you today on what we know. And that's what this show's about, just to bring clarity to you. And so things like this tool, Exchange My Tax Bill, will bring clarity around how you can save money in taxes.
Jay and Brittany, thank you very much. I know that retirement clarity is probably going to take a little bit of time. It might take a little bit of effort, and it might take a little bit of help. And all of that, Jay and Brittany are both welcome to help you with. It starts with a phone call. Dial that phone number you see right now down on the bottom of the screen, or if you want, you can scan the QR code. So you can set up a time here with the team from Allon Planning Partners and get started on your own complete portfolio review. Income, taxes, estate planning, healthcare selections, Social Security, and whatever else with a dollar sign is keeping you up at night. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.